wonderful people, and happy Sunday. I'm back on another segment of the life of Joseph. I'll be dealing with chapters 40 and 41. And from both chapters, these are the things that jump right out to me. Okay, I see promotion. I see providence. I see humility. I see complete confidence in God. I see a blatant disregard. I see repetition. I see that nothing we go through is in vain. I see God knows where we are and He will find a way to get us out. I see that we must know who to call on when we are going through. I see wisdom. I see what is for you is for you. No one can take it away. I see, okay, that is all I see so far. So let's just run through the story, and I encourage you to read it when you read both of them, when you have a chance. Okay, now where we last stopped at, we know that Joseph is now in prison, and we know that God granted him kindness and God granted him favor with the warden. So the promotion is where Joseph was given responsibility for the entire prison and everything that went on in the prison. And while there, guess who ended up in there? Pharaoh, he's the king of Egypt. He was offended by his chief butler and his chief baker, and they end up in Joseph's care. So the following day, both of them had a dream on the same night. So the next morning, Joseph went to check on them and noticed that they were sad. So he asked them, hey, why you look so sad? And I'm just paraphrasing. Why you look so sad? So they answered that they both had a dream and they don't have anyone to interpret the dream. So Joseph said something interesting. He asked them, does not interpretation belong to God? So he asked them to, just tell me what your dream. So the chief butler in his dream, he saw a vine, vine, with 3 branches that seemed to be budding, and the blossoms were shooting off clusters of ripe grapes. And then he saw Pharaoh's cup in his hand, and he was like pressing grapes into the cup and giving it to Pharaoh. So Joseph told him that, hey, in 3 days, no, he said, the 3 branches that you saw, that represented 3 days. And that in 3 days, he would be restored to his former position of chief butler. So now, Joseph went on to tell the butler, now listen, think on me when you get out. Remember when all is well with you. Remember me, remember and show me kindness. And mention to Pharaoh about me. Because guess what? I was taken out of my land. In other words, I was kidnapped. I was sold into slavery. I didn't come here in Egypt willingly. And I'm paraphrasing. So he said, just mention me to Pharaoh and bring me out of this house. And then he went on to say, I was stolen from the Hebrew land. And I have done nothing that they should put me in this dungeon. And we know the dungeon is a pit. He just can't get rid of those pits. His brothers throw him in a pit. And now he is in Egypt in a pit again. Now listen, when that chief baker saw that the butler got a good dream, a good interpretation of his dream, he said, hey, you got to interpret my dream too. So he said, in my dream, I had 3 white baskets on my head. In the uppermost or the highest baskets, there were all manner of baked meats for Pharaoh. And the birds ate them. And Joseph told him, the 3 baskets are 3 days. Within 3 days, you're getting hanged, buddy. You are getting hanged on a tree, and the birds will eat you. Eat up your flesh. And just like clockwork, so said, so done. The chief butler was restored to his former position. And this happened on Pharaoh's birthday. But guess what? This is where the disregard come in. The butler did not remember Joseph. He did not remember Joseph at all. 2 years later, honey. 2 years later, Pharaoh had a dream. And in his dream, actually he had 2 dreams in one night. The first dream, he saw 7 fat cows on they were eating in a meadow on the brink of a river. So he went back to sleep. And he had a next dream with 7 fat or favored ears of corn on one stalk. And then, I'm missing out something. With the 7, he saw 7 fat cows. And then 7 skinny ones ate up the fat cows. But they didn't look any fatter. They were still skinny. So he went to sleep and he had another dream. He dreamt about 7 fat full ears of corn. And then he saw 7 bare ones, look like the east wind blow out the corn or the husk. And the 7 bare corn devoured the full set of corn. So Pharaoh woke up, and the next day he was like trouble in his spirit. So what he did, he called for all the magicians in Egypt, and he called for all the wise men, and none of them could help him. Not one could help him. And guess what? Then the butler remembered Joseph. And then he relayed to Pharaoh what happened in prison, how Joseph interpreted him and the him and the what it was, the baker's dream, and it happened just as he said. So they ran to the prison and they brought Joseph to Pharaoh. Now, before they took Joseph to Pharaoh, you know, Joseph had to shave up and change his clothes and all that, right? So Joseph, when he got to Pharaoh, Pharaoh told him about the dream and how, you know, the magicians and the wise men couldn't interpret the dream for him. And how Pharaoh told him about what the chief butler had said concerning him. Now Joseph is so humble. Joseph said, "It is not in me. God." Joseph liked to give God glory and credit. All through, he gave God credit. He said, "It is not in me. God shall give Pharaoh an answer of peace." Because Pharaoh was troubled. And it so happened that Joseph told him that both of the dreams he had is like one, because they were related. That there will be 7 years of plenty and 7 years of famine. So yeah, and Joseph told him that these things is gonna happen. And he said why the dreams were doubled. It's because God was showing him the things that will happen shortly. Okay? Now, this is where wisdom came in. Joseph advised Pharaoh to seek out a man who is discreet and who is wise, and set him over the land of Egypt, and appoint officers over the land to take a fifth part of the land of Egypt in the 7 years of plenty, and to lay them up in store in the cities, so that whenever the famine happens, they'll have food on hand, honey. So Pharaoh saw this, he took this suggestion to heart, and he thought that it was good. So you know what Pharaoh did? And this goes to show, honey, what is for you, no one can take. So Pharaoh told him, in essence, since you made the suggestion, you will be the man that I will place over all of Egypt. Since God show it to you, you are going to be the man to take care of Egypt. And he said that you will be over my house. And according to your word, whatever your word is, my people will be ruled by it. And he said that no one will be greater than you except me because of the throne. And he set Joseph over the entire land of Egypt. And he put a ring, his ring on Joseph's finger. And he arrayed him in fine linen and put a gold chain on his neck and made him to ride in his second chariot. The first one was for the king and the second one was for Joseph, honey. So Joseph was made ruler over the entire land of Egypt. And Pharaoh even gave him a name. Now this is a long name. I can't pronounce this, and I know if I can pronounce it right. Zaphnath Paaneah. It's spelled ZapnathPaanea. Okay? And he even gave Joseph a wife, the daughter of Pharaoh, the priest of On. So Joseph went all over Egypt. And Joseph was 30 years at this time, which means that 13 years had passed. All whatever he went through transpired within 13 years. And during the 7 years of plenty, Joseph stored up corn, and the Bible said the corn was like the sand on the seashore. That's how much it was. Tell Joseph stop counting. And he just, he left off counting, and it couldn't be counted. And Joseph, for all he went through, he ended up with 2 sons. Manasseh, that's what he named the first one. And he said because God told him that he made him forget all of his toil and all of his father's house. And the second son he named Ephraim. And he said because God had caused him to be fruitful in the land of his affliction. And when the years of famine, he had these kids, he had his first son 2 years before the famine. So when that famine came, honey, and them Egyptians started crying for bread, the Pharaoh sent them to Joseph and said, go to Joseph, whatever he tell you, that you should do. And the famine was all over the earth. This was a universal famine. So what Joseph did, he opened them storehouses, baby. And he was selling those corn and grain and everything else. And all the different countries came into Egypt to Joseph to buy corn, because the famine was so great. Now, let me go back to promotion. Let me tell you something. No matter what people try, no matter what they do to us or to you, let me make it personal. To you, listen, God can promote you wherever you are. God knows where you are. And I remember a story where I was transferred to Grand Bahama. That's another island here in the Bahamas. And I left Nassau to fill a position in headquarters there in the traffic section. And when I got there, I was sent to a far place. And a totally different place. It was run down and it was a little run down. But guess what? At one point I started to complain. I say, Lord, what is this? Lord, I have to pay extra money for gas, and Lord, I have to work extra hard because the place will run down and what have you. And the Holy Spirit convict my spirit. And you know what I did? I stopped complaining. I just started doing whatever it is that I need to do. And you know what? In a matter of weeks or months, I was transferred out of there into headquarters. And from there, I wasn't even in that place where they put me. I wasn't even there like 8 months. I was placed in the OC of Grand Bahamas office. So it goes to show, no matter what people try to do to you, and I'm not saying people try to do anything to me, but it just goes to show wherever you end up, God knows where you are, and he can promote you right where you are. Okay? Now, humility. Joseph was humble. He was humble. He didn't take no praise for his gift. He acknowledged that it was God. He gave God all the credit. You know, sometimes we got little gifts here and there and we think it's of our own. We don't even stop and say, Lord, I thank you. I thank you for this gift that you have given me. We think it's of our own doing. So, let's learn to give God credit, honey, because he alone deserves all the praise, all the glory, and all the credit concerning us. Because if we really want to get down to it, it is God's breath in our body, what we breathe. It is his air. It is his strength that we use to accomplish or to acquire whatever it is that we get. So we can't get around it. Every credit belongs to the Almighty God. Okay? Now the disregard I said was with the chief butler. He gone out, he get Joseph interpretation, and he even didn't look back. He didn't even look back, and guess what? If Pharaoh didn't have that dream, Joseph would have still been in jail. But God have it so God knows where we are, honey. God knows Pharaoh had that dream and nobody could interpret that. So it's just that. And another thing, we have gifts, and sometimes some people get jealous, you know. They think, oh, I could do it better than him. I could do it better than her. I could sing better. I can preach better. I can type better. I can manage better. I can do all these things better than her or him. But guess what? Certain things only we can do. Certain things only you can do. They can do it now, but it ain't gonna be the same results, honey. It won't be the same results. So, Joseph, he had to go through what he went through to get to his destiny. And repetition. His brothers threw him in a pit, then took him out and sold him as a slave in Egypt. Joseph gone to Egypt, and that wicked woman lie on him, and he end right back up in a pit. I don't know what it is about them pits in Joseph's life, but those pits, honey, is just a pathway. It's just like an interim stop to his destiny, honey. And like I say, nothing that we go through is in vain. Nothing, absolutely nothing. Joseph ended up in jail, but guess what? He had to go through jail to get to Pharaoh's house. Now Pharaoh's, when he got there, he was in the official house, Pharaoh's official, the chief of the guard's house. But look at the promotion. He had to get out of there to get to the king's palace, honey. So this was just like a pit stop, or a little bus stop, or a little rest. A little rest spot to get to his destiny, honey. Okay, and we have to know who to call on when we are going through things, honey. Pharaoh called when he was so troubled in his spirit. He called all the magicians. He called all the wise men. Some of us, we just call everybody but God. We call the old bear man or the old bear woman. We call this one and that one. We never stop once to call the only true and living God, who said, call on me and I will answer. You have to know who to call on, honey. Listen, when he called on them magicians and them wise men, none of them could have helped him. None of them could have helped him. But Joseph could, because Joseph had the Spirit of God in him. Joseph was connected to the source, honey. So in this season, we got to be connected to the source in order to get to our destinies. Okay? Now, with Joseph was a wise little young man. Oh, and he went to Pharaoh when he was 30, and I said that already. He was a wise brother. When he got in front of Pharaoh, he tell Pharaoh, look, you got to choose a man who is discreet, who is prudent, and who is wise. And Pharaoh was wise too, because Pharaoh said, listen, since God told you all this thing, you could be the man to be over in charge of Egypt. You. And let me just say, no matter what we go through, no matter how we go through, we must go through. You got to go through. That's the only way you can reach your destiny. Sometimes we like to take shortcuts. Sometimes we like to just abandon ship. No, you got to go through, honey. You got to go through. Look at Joseph now. Joseph is second in charge of Egypt. Second in charge of Egypt. Second only to the king himself. He ended up with a wife. He ended up with his 2 sons. And things are looking good for Joseph. Things are looking very good for Joseph. And if we be obedient, and if we just go through, guess what? Everything is going to be all right. So I'm going to stop here now. And I'll see you in the next segments. So God bless you. Enjoy the rest of your Sunday. And peace out from the 242, honey.